I want to show you a clip that I think will absolutely blow you away. It starts with Adam Carolla saying something so simple and so brutal, it stops you in your tracks. What if the people we're trying to make peace with don't actually want peace? That moment opens the door for Dennis Prager to drop a truth bomb about the Middle East that leaves Jordan Peterson visibly stunned. This isn't what you've been told. Watch the full conversation and let us know in the comments below if you agree or think they've got it all wrong.
I think we sort of make a mistake, and we've run into this abroad with a lot of foreign policy. Is we assume they want what we want. You know what I mean? Like everyone wants to live in peace, everyone wants freedom, everyone wants harmony, and all we have to do is string together the right words in the right order, and we could express that to them. So we sort of treat it as if you're having an argument with your wife and she just doesn't understand that you really care about her and love her. And so you will put that down on a greeting card and we will somehow right this ship or repair this. But if she wants you dead, then what is it that you could say to her that would ever remedy that?
Well, we could modify that slightly, because I think you could say that it might be the case that the values that are put forward as central in the West explicitly are the most essential human values, and that that's universal, but that a dedicated minority in any place can put the boots to that pretty damn rapidly. And so, you know, when the foreign policy idea is, well, there is a desire for freedom that's part and parcel of the human spirit, fair enough. But how much opposition does that have to run into before it's impossible? And the answer might be, and I think it could well be, that it doesn't have to run into that much opposition to be in jeopardy. Like a committed minority, even a committed small minority, can have a disproportionate effect. I think there's evidence supporting that proposition.
If I may, I want to comment on as you did on what Adam said. I was a student at two institutes at the School of International Affairs in graduate school at Columbia, the Russian Institute and the Middle East Institute. I did Hebrew, Arabic, and Russian. So I want you to know that Adam's analysis of the Middle East was more cogent than all of my professors in the Middle East Institute at Columbia. He hit it the bullseye. The staggering error of the naive that everybody wants the same thing. And that's why, for example, I was taught the nonsense, and I talked about this on Fox News 2 weeks ago, and it sort of went viral, that the battle in the Middle East, I always knew, was not about land. If Israel were the size of Manhattan, they would want to destroy it.
No, it's not about land.
No. But every single professor at Columbia said it was land. The New York Times says it's land. They all say it's land. You know it, I know it, and Adam knows it. It's that one side wants the other side dead. That's it. And that's because of religion, because for traditional Islam, there is no room for Jewish or Christian, for that matter, hegemony in the middle of the Middle East. Period. End of issue. They want Israel dead. There was nothing Israel. Israel withdrew from Gaza, and all they got was Hamas.
Let me ask you a quick question about that.
Yeah.
Do you see any hope? I mean, Israel has been negotiating somewhat more successfully with many countries in the Middle East now than, say, 15 years ago. Is that true or not?
Yes, in large measure, thanks to the man that is reviled by the left, Donald Trump.
Okay, so you do think it's true. Why would you attribute it to Trump?
Because Trump said, I don't give a hoot about the Palestinian radicals. They are not the central issue in the Middle East. And as soon as the rest of the Arab countries saw that America was strong and not bowing to the most radical elements of Islamic life, they said, you know what? There's Israel's not all that bad, frankly, and we would like to do business with it.
Okay, so I'm going to ask a meta question here. Why do you guys think that conflict got dragged into this conversation? I mean, the reason I'm asking that is because, I mean, that conflict, everyone in the world, their eyes are focused on it in a way that isn't true of any other conflict. And it's certainly not a consequence of the number of people who are involved. There's something magical about that conflict, and that pertains to your statement that it's not about land, it's about religion. And maybe it's about even more than religion, who knows, or perhaps not. But, what was you think that called forth that conflict into this conversation?
Adam correctly raised it when he was talking about the gulf between liberal and left. He, to his credit, raised the Middle East as an example. Liberals were always pro-Israel. The left was always anti-Israel. And that's, if you can't see the moral clarity of the Middle East issue, Hamas primitives versus a modern liberal democracy called Israel, there's something wrong with your moral compass.
So why do you think the radical left is pro-Palestine particularly? Why did they pick that?
I don't know anything about the region, but I do sort of know what animates people. My feeling is, and as someone who grew up with a mother who was sort of this way and a grandmother who dabbled in communism a little bit, they want to push back against everything that is. So it's more of an anarchist approach than it is, here's my plan. No one can really say that out loud, but it's sort of like defund the police.
So it's part of revolution in a sense.
It's just
an
burn it all.
extension of revolution.
It's basically one house has a well-groomed lawn and a white picket fence, and the other one has a sofa rotting on the lawn and a guy smoking weed standing on the porch, and I only have one Molotov cocktail. What direction do I throw it? It's always going to go toward the house with the white picket fence if these people are lighting the Molotov
Yeah,
cocktail.
well, one of the things I have noticed about in my discussion with well-meaning people who tilt more to the left, say, than you guys, is that they are generally relatively unwilling to consider the role of dark emotions in political motivation, right? They tend to think things like, well, the people on the radical left, their heart's in the right place, but their means are wrong. But what they're trying to do is to stand up for the oppressed, however badly they're doing it. And I think, well, I had this experience. You can tell me what you think of this, but it really, I just re-encountered it. I was looking at the discussion I had with Slavoj Žižek a few years ago about Marxism, putatively. That isn't really what the conversation ended up being about. But I offered a 15-minute critique of the Communist Manifesto at the beginning. And at one point, I described it to the audience as a call to bloody, violent revolution, which is what it was. And there were a lot of people in the audience, a disproportionate number for my audiences, who had come to see Žižek kick the slats out from underneath me. And so there were a lot of people who were very far left in the audience. And when I said call to bloody, violent revolution, a good fifth of the audience cheered and laughed. And it stopped me in my tracks because it was quite chilling. I heard the mob in that moment. And, it was a Freudian moment. Freud noted that people often laughed at things that had deep psychological significance, and also that you could express your true feelings when you were hidden in a crowd. Well, and the true feelings were, well, the Communist Manifesto, who the hell cares about its rationality and its justification? It's like, it's a call for a violent revolution, and hooray, let's do it. And I thought, yeah, you bastards, you revealed yourself in that laugh, in that chilling, awful, unconscious, willfully blind, malevolent glee at the notion of the picket fence burning down. And the question is, well, what's generating that malevolence? And the surface story is, well, you got that through ill-got means. And so the right thing to do is to take it back. And that goes along with the claim that power is the fundamental motivation. What I can't understand is how the hell those of us who don't believe that have been so weak, let's say, that we allowed the educational institutions to be overtaken by people who are propounding that preposterous doctrine. It's like, what the hell's wrong with us? Conservatives and liberals alike. What did we do wrong?
Well, they know what they're doing in that they know everyone's Achilles heel is a claim of power, especially power that's ill-gotten. Your dad's rich, now you're rich.
Yeah. Then your grandfather was a landowner.
Right. And then race, right? So why do you think they weave race into every single subject? It gets the other side to shut it up.
Yes.
And you don't have to prove your point. You just call everyone a racist, and we can
Well, yeah,
win,
you put them
and we
on their
can move
heels right
forward.
away, right? Because if you're
Right.
yelling about systemic racism and I object
Right.
to it, I'm instantly a racist. It's so convenient. But that still
Right.
doesn't excuse our weakness in the face of that. Now, Dennis, you put your finger on something. You know, you said the thing about conservatives is they like to be left alone.
Mhm.
Well, so maybe
Right.
that makes conservatives particularly weak in the faces
correct.
in the face.
That's
Yeah,
right.
okay.
You see, we have fulfilled lives outside of power. I am fulfilled in so many arenas, having nothing to do with political power or running the Board of Education in my local district. I am fulfilled by my religion. As you heard, I'm religious. I am fulfilled. I love America. I love my Judaism. I love my family. I love my friends. I have synagogue every week, one that I helped found. I mean, my life is so rich, not to mention my music, but theirs isn't. Their richness derives from political activism. That is their raison d'etre. And as Adam pointed out, the term I use is chaos.
Okay, so let me bug
Yep.
you about that for a minute. So I have some sympathy with your argument. I think there's empirical data, if I remember correctly, showing that the most unhappy people are left-leaning men.
Right.
Okay, so but we'll leave that to the side.
Oh, really? Not left-leaning
Well, just-
women? I think it's a tie.
So I can't remember the data well enough to cite it with perfect accuracy. So, but look, so there's young people, they go off to university and they're looking for this sense of involvement that you just described. Okay, now the leftist propagandists who are teaching them, let's say, are appealing to that and offering them a kind of romantic adventure. Now, that matches their developmental need at that point. That should be the point at which they're richly encultured by an intact myth, something like that. Well, the fact that that isn't being provided in a credible manner is what lays young people open to this kind of propaganda.